No, wait. Play this.
2001's Josie and the Pussycats had all of the makings of a blockbuster hit. A star-studded cast, campy dialogue, iconic Y2K looks, and a fabulous soundtrack. Not to mention a shady government conspiracy to take over the world using pop music and murder. I mean, what's not to love? But as misunderstood as it was at the time, Josie's realistic commentary on the state of pop culture, mindless, out-of-control consumerism, trend-hopping, and influence has only become more relevant in the age of social media. Now, if you haven't seen Josie and the Pussycats, the movie centers on 3 girls in a band, but before we meet the girls, we meet the boys, du jour.
Du jour means family.
The hottest boy band in the world, who are promptly murdered via plane crash by their manager/handler, Wyatt, after they begin asking too many questions. This leaves a vacuum in the pop music market that Wyatt is looking to fill when he meets the girls and signs them on aesthetics alone. I won't spoil too much, but basically, Josie finds that the giant machine that Wyatt uses to produce songs is actually being used to implant hidden messages behind their music. Usually the messages are there telling people what to buy, changing fashion trends constantly, and fueling mass consumption. And this discovery has led to the deaths of countless other musicians. Alright, now that we've got a feel for the plot, let's get into the fun stuff. So we have to start by acknowledging the movie's insane amount of product placement. You can't watch Josie and the Pussycats and not be shocked by the number of logos and products in this movie. It's the first observation made by anyone that I've ever shown this movie to. There are an estimated 73 different companies advertised in the hour-and-a-half runtime, but interestingly enough, no money was paid by these companies for publicity. The products are simply there to make a point. We see bounced dryer sheets and dish soap decorating the interior walls of a plane, a McDonald's-themed shower, and the Target logo absolutely everywhere. This blatant logomania is a nod to 2 of the main themes of the movie: mindless overconsumption and the fact that we are always being sold to. And the directors went above and beyond to make sure that every scene had at least one advertisement featured, and never subtly. At the end of the movie, there is a quick, semi-subliminal message stating that movies are actually better for brainwashing than music.
Josie and the Pussycats is the best movie ever.
Implying that we, the audience, have been subjected to the same treatment as the pop culture victims in the movie, warning the viewer to be wary of any and all media that we consume. In fact, some companies like Gap didn't want to be featured in the movie after reading the script. They realized that this movie wasn't actually just full of ads, but was instead making a tongue-in-cheek joke at the consumerist culture. But not everyone got it. In fact, most criticisms at the time of the release said that the movie was hypocritical and assumed that the product placements were all paid for. Roger Ebert gave the movie half of a star, saying, quote, "Josie and the Pussycats are not dumber than the Spice Girls, but they're as dumb as the Spice Girls, which is dumb enough." The movie is a would-be comedy about prefab bands and commercial sponsorship, which may mean that the movie's own plugs for Coke, Target, Starbucks, Motorola, and Evian are part of the joke. End quote. It's like he almost got the point, but just didn't think a girls' movie was smart enough to make it. Then he rants about donuts and nitpicks the meaning of subliminal, saying that the Pussycats would probably think that suboral was a type of foreplay. In contrast, Zoolander, released just months after Josie with a very similar plot, was also given poor ratings upon release. Publicly, Ebert gave Zoolander a single star, but Ben Stiller said privately years later, Ebert retracted his statement, saying that he found the movie funny, but he went overboard with his criticism since it was a conspiratorial movie released shortly after 9/11. Makes me wonder if he would have stood behind his original Josie review, but considering most of his criticisms were vaguely misogynistic and make it clear that he didn't actually understand the point of the movie, probably not. It is, after all, a silly movie about camp girly fun, and what would an elderly straight man know about that? As for the teen pop culture victims, fandoms and teen consumers in this movie are presented initially as over-the-top, hysterical, and mindless, reminiscent of how teen girl fandoms are seen today. And we spoke about this in detail in my last video featuring Matt Rife. But the movie quickly shows us the dark underbelly of this world. These kids did not consciously choose to be mindless consumers. They've been literally brainwashed. Nothing is organically chosen by the consumer. Subliminal messages in music tell them what to wear, eat, drink, think, what bands to like, and what movies and magazines are in or out.
And it's sort of comical how you think that you've made a choice that exempts you from the fashion industry when in fact you're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room.
Everything is meticulously marketed and forced into the listener's subconscious. The one free-thinking teen that we see in the entire movie is unceremoniously shoved into a van, kidnapped, and is musically lobotomized. The movie really takes its time warning the viewers of the perils of thoughtless consumerism and blindly following celebrities, and in this day and age, influencers. This has never been more relevant than it is today with social media on the rise. So many influencers have been criticized for not disclosing ads, and gone are the days of TikTok silly dances and skits. As we move into 2024, the Clock app is nothing more than an entertaining place to shop. Not to mention that the band Josie and the Pussycats is the definition of an industry plant. And in an age where everyone from Billie Eilish to Lorde, Ice Spice, Jack Harlow, and Cardi B have all been accused of being plants at one point or another, Josie and the Pussycats was so ahead of its time. We're now in a time culturally where we're more willing than ever to have these conversations about overconsumption, government schemes, and manufactured pop stars, while also having a deeper appreciation for camp. Had this movie been released in 2024, it would have fared so much better than it did in 2001. So now let's talk about TikTok. What was once a silly kids dance app has turned into today's trendiest product pimp. TikTok will tell you what water bottle you need. The Stanley last week, this week, the Owala. It'll tell you what shoes are in style, and then will relentlessly remind you when they're out 5 months later. There's a new skincare company trending every day, and a new must-buy perfume, concealer, drink, vacuum, makeup applicator, athleisure brand weekly. And how convenient, everything can be purchased in the app. But aren't we a little old to be fighting over water bottles in the aisles of Target? Aren't we tired of wasteful kids' trends? Aren't we sick of miles-long collections of lotions and Starbucks cups and shampoos and body scrubs? Aren't we tired of seeing another haul?
Come with me to Target for 3 things and 3 things only.
As much as Josie and the Pussycats got right, as timeless as it is, if it was made today, Fiona wouldn't need an elaborate machine and pop stars to brainwash kids into following every new trend. All she would need to do is find a pretty girl and hand her an iPhone and an Amex. In the digital age, with everything at our fingertips, we've become more easily influenced than ever before. Doja Cat is another musician who's been accused of being an industry plant, but as someone who was a huge fan back in 2014-2015, I can tell you that that isn't the case. What she is or was in the late 2010s was a sellout. And I say that in the least disparaging way. She saw an in and she took it. She changed her sound completely to be more marketable, and she told us also.
Bitch, I said what I said. I'd rather be famous instead.
Listen to her early songs like No Police or Trauma, and you'll hear a huge difference to her later music like Go to Town or Woman. That said, she's recently been heavily criticized once again for pivoting and changing her sound away from her poppier, upbeat music to a more aggressive, darker sound. But while she isn't an industry plant, Doja is a bit of a pussycat herself. In 2019, she wore this iconic look to the BET Awards very shortly after gaining worldwide fame with Moo when it went viral in 2018. This is a very clear reference to this dress that Fiona, the head of Josie and the Pussycats record company, wears in the scene where she markets her musical brainwashing services to global political officials. There are multiple reasons that Doja could have worn this dress. Maybe it's just an iconic reference with no meaning behind it. Maybe she was telling us that she sold out her sound for popularity. Or maybe it's a warning. What she might be warning us of is up for debate, but for decades the music industry has been accused of putting hidden messages in music that supposedly can only be heard when played backwards. Beyonce, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, the Eagles have all famously been accused of putting hidden backwards messages in their music, usually satanic. My favorite example of this is from the famously quirky and somewhat unserious band, the B-52s. Play their song Detour Through Your Mind backwards, and you'll allegedly hear the words, "Oh no, you're playing the record backwards, watch out, you might ruin your needle." Iconic. But there are also plenty of less abstract examples of the music industry using their power to influence teens and adults alike. Certain beats, frequencies, and lyrics can influence your mood or productivity, and can even affect how you view others. According to one study, the kind of music you're listening to when you look at someone's face can alter how you perceive them. And even more damning, in an interview, Meek Mills exposed the industry for allegedly paying rappers more to incorporate violence and, quote, ignorant stuff into their music, which ties heavily into the private for-profit prison system here in the US. Drug use and violence in music can influence people into a negative lifestyle. Flashy, luxurious music videos can influence people to spend beyond their means. And over-sexualized music videos can influence people to seek validations from others in unhealthy ways. This conspiracy goes way beyond subliminal, as shown in the movie, to overt, as proven by real life. As mentioned in the beginning of this video, the conspiracies in Josie and the Pussycats are a two-parter. First, they use pop music to brainwash, then they kill the musicians when they're no longer useful.
Ever wonder why so many rock stars die in plane crashes?
So it's only right that we talk about suspicious celebrity deaths referenced or coincidentally linked to this movie. Specifically, plane deaths. In one of the first scenes of the movie, boy band superstars du jour board their private jet and tell their manager Wyatt that they heard something strange while listening to their own music. Wyatt immediately goes to the cockpit to alert the pilot using code,
Take the Chevy to the levee.
meaning it's time to jump ship, or in this case, plane, and let it crash with the band on board. Drive the Chevy to the levee is a lyric from the Don McLean song American Pie, which paid tribute to the 1956 plane crash that killed Buddy Holly, J.P. Richardson, and Richie Valens. Though many are sure that the plane crash was caused by an inexperienced pilot, it has still been heavily speculated and hotly debated, causing the case to be reopened in 2015, as well as influencing J.P. Richardson's son into having his father's body exhumed and subjected to forensic testing in 2007. In another sad turn of events, Aaliyah actually auditioned for Josie and the Pussycats as Valerie, but was considered too serious and thoughtful, as did Beyonce, who was too shy. The role later went to Rosario Dawson, and the movie was released in April of 2001. Then later that year, in August of 2001, Aaliyah very famously and very sadly died in a very suspicious plane crash at the height of her career. This was after she traveled to the Bahamas to film her music video for Rock the Boat, which was directed and produced by Hype Williams, who coincidentally was also the photographer following TLC's Lisa Left Eye Lopez when she died in a car crash in Honduras. Many questioned why the video shoot that could have just used any generic beach and green screen for filming didn't just continue shooting in Miami where they were originally scheduled. Why did Hype Williams move the shoot to the Bahamas and then later take the plane that Lenny Kravitz sent for Aaliyah, leaving her to ride in a cargo plane that was overweight capacity and never intended for passengers? Was Aaliyah even awake when she was boarded onto the plane? A man who claims to have been the baggage handler for the Bahamas trip said that Aaliyah didn't want to board the plane once she saw how small and over capacity it was and got back into the taxi for a nap, stating that she had a headache. According to him, a member of her team offered her a pill for the headache, which knocked her out and she was carried unconscious onto the plane. Moments after takeoff, the plane crashed, leaving no survivors. Whether or not she was drugged unconscious has never been proven, but either way, her death has always been considered deeply suspicious, especially considering her involvement with R. Kelly and what she may have known about other powerful men with similar underage tastes to her ex-husband. Aaliyah's uncle Barry Hankerson, who owned Blackground Records, actually made $90 million after Aaliyah's death, basically from lost earnings that he would have made off of her future projects.
When Aaliyah dies, I was with Barry when Aaliyah died for a wrongful death. He got paid $90 million for her death. Am I supposed to say that on TV? Sue me. I ain't got nothing. I was with him on the negotiations. You know what I'm saying? You're worth more dead to me than you're alive.
Other celebrity aviation deaths include Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gigi. Prior to their death, several cartoons made subtle and not so subtle predictions that he would die by helicopter crash.
Oh shit! It's Kobe Bryant!
Help me.
And there was also the crash that killed 4, leaving DJ AM and Blink-182 drummer Travis Barker as the only survivors in 2008. On the cover of Blink-182's 4th album released in 2001, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, each band member was assigned a symbol, with Barker's being a plane representing the words "take off." Years later, Travis was burnt over 65% of his body after he caught fire in the plane crash that caused him to, you guessed it, take off his pants and jacket. So while I'm not claiming that any of these celebrities were murdered by nefarious Hollywood elites, that's for you to research and decide. I do find this topic really interesting, and we can't talk about this movie without addressing interesting celebrity plane crashes. Anyway, this has been one of my favorite movies since it came out when I was very young, so I can't tell if it's the nostalgia talking, but I never tire of this movie. Its message is timeless and even more relevant today than it was in 2001. Outside of the conspiracies, it has a lot of positive themes of authenticity, friendship, and doing what's right even when it doesn't benefit you. So, have you seen this movie, and who's your favorite character? I'm a total softie who loves animals, so as a kid, I really related to Melanie, but as an adult, I have to recognize Fiona as the unhinged icon that she is. Anyway, stay tuned next time for more video essays, pop culture analysis, and celebrity gossip. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Bye!